Hey everyone, RogueGold here. Welcome back to the Division 2. And today, you may have heard that next season we are receiving an all-new gear rarity called Prototype Gear. It is going to be pushing our power levels and build crafting fantasies farther than ever before. The catch, though, is that these will be extremely rare items to get, as they are intended to be a new long-term grind in gear chase. So, while today's video is aimed at helping those of you who want to grab as many prototype items on day one as possible, I do need to make something clear, as there are some big misconceptions going around right now. You do not need to be expertise level 30 in order to acquire prototype gear. If you want to upgrade your current items into the prototype quality, then yes, you will need to be at that level, and that is exactly what we're going to be covering in this video. But if you feel like you are too far behind, you don't want to or don't have the time to sink in all of those hours over the next few weeks to prepare, do not feel obligated to. Prototype gear will drop as loot rewards from the new PvE escalation mode, which we will have a full guide for here on the channel at launch. So I just wanted to clear that up, but for those of you out there who do want to go the extra mile to prepare, buckle up, as I've got you covered. If you enjoyed this one, you want to stay locked in for everything we have coming to the Division 2 in the new season and the year ahead, then be sure to subscribe. A major shout out and thank you to our channel members. As always, it is your continuous support that allows me to be here, continue making these videos, which I enjoy so much, so thank you. But without further ado, let's jump into the guide. Okay, to begin, let us quickly recap what exactly prototype gear is and what the upgrade process is going to look like. So, prototype gear is essentially enhanced versions of the gear that we are already accustomed to in-game. Every, or nearly every, high-end gear set or named item, both weapons and gear, can now be upgraded to prototype versions. Prototype items offer higher stats, with the current maximum that we are accustomed to on core and regular attributes now being the minimum possible value on prototype, and they will also come with augments, which are new passive perks and mini talents that will roll on every gear slot. So that is a lot of new power that we are going to be gaining. It is worth noting that all of this additional power won't really be needed anywhere in the game outside of the higher tiers of this new escalation mode, so scrambling to get a bunch of prototypes once they release really is not something you should stress over, but obviously people are going to want to get them, right? They're the shiny new thing, and as a way to try and respect the time that many of us have put in over the years to perfecting and maxing out our builds, the team is offering an upgrade path into this new rarity. A couple of very important things to note as far as upgrading goes, though. Upgrading an item into the prototype quality guarantees that you will receive one stat roll on the item that is maxed out under the new parameters. However, the chances are that the other rolls on the item will remain at the prototype minimum, which again is still the maximum of our current gear's potential. Additionally, once converted to prototype, you can no longer recalibrate or optimize the item whatsoever, and this goes for prototype gear across the board, aside from re-rolling the augment slot. So, before you listen to the remainder of this video and start grinding away in order to be prepared to upgrade, just know that upgrading will get your foot in the proverbial prototype door, but you will still need to eventually grind escalations if you want a chance at those min-max prototype pieces. Upgrading an item is still worthwhile, right? As it is guaranteed to always be an upgrade over whatever you had previously, but especially with the grind that is associated with being eligible to upgrade, some may not deem that worth the effort. So, that then finally takes us to the eligibility requirements to upgrade an item to the new prototype rarity. The item in question must be level 40, it must have maxed out attributes in every slot, and it must be of max expertise level. That final requirement is the big hang-up that the majority of players are going to run into, because not only does it require that your character have reached expertise level 30, which is a grind on its own, but it also means that any piece you wish to upgrade to prototype needs 30 expertise levels applied to it, which is a big resource and material sink. But do not fear, wherever in the process you may be at, my goal by the end of this video is to give you the tools and guidance to be prepared to get at least one mostly complete prototype build on launch day through the upgrade path. It is going to take some serious time, so I hope you've got your calendar cleared over the next 2 weeks ahead of launch, but let's get into the details. Let's break down the first major hurdle for prototype upgrades, and that is reaching expertise level 30. If you're here watching this video, then I have to assume that you already know what expertise is and at least have a general idea of how the system works. What you want to know is how to make the climb from wherever you may be at, be it expertise level 23, 17, 10, how do I boost up to 30? So, I'm going to walk you through my personal recommended farm. To begin, you're going to want to ensure that you have at least 40 free slots in your backpack. If you can get that up to 50 or higher, great, but 40 should give you enough flexibility to pick up all of the loot that you're soon going to be getting without having to stop and look at it. Then you're going to want to equip a build with as many non-proficient items as possible, meaning items or sets that are not yet at proficiency rank 10, and keep in mind that this includes skills and specialization weapons, so equip ones that need levels to maximize those gains. Do not worry too much about making a synergistic loadout. If you need to equip random items because that's what you need progress in, go for it. Reason why it doesn't overly matter is because we're jumping into Countdown, which is an 8-player mode, so you can largely lean on and rely on your teammates to carry the weight. Challenging is the recommended difficulty here. It has the highest matchmaking pool. It's also just going to be an easy experience overall. The key here, though, is that before you begin your first run, go in and open the mode's targeted loot selector to choose a category in which you also need a lot of proficiency levels. If you need to check this, you can go into the expertise menu. Do you maybe have a lot of pistols that still need proficiency? Maybe there's a certain brand or gear set that you've been neglecting. You're going to want to select that, and then your goal while playing Countdown is to vacuum up every single loot drop that you see. There is a command to pick up any pile that you come across as junk, and that is the most recommended for easy sorting afterwards. Other than that, stay alive, be sure to successfully extract, and then once you're back at the base, you should now be 40 plus items heavier thanks to Countdown's generous drops. At that point, you want to return to the expertise menu, and at the bottom, there's a button for donate all junk, and this will automatically donate each marked item to its respective proficiency level. So, by doing this, you're now gaining 2 proficiency sources at once. One is the passive gains from the build that you equipped, and 2 is the mass donations that you're making after each run. From there, you're just going to rinse and repeat. The only thing you need to keep an eye on is swapping out pieces of your build once they become proficient, right? You want to replace them with something new that still needs levels. And the other is swapping your targeted loot whenever you max out or get close to maxing out the proficiency levels in that category. So, that is the farm. 2 quick additions on top of that though. For one, while SHD levels are not overly relevant to this whole prototype topic, if you happen to have a bunch of SHD scavenging points stockpiled, maybe from last year's grants that they did when they shut down the mule farms, you do have the opportunity to further expedite your expertise level progression by donating materials to items of your choosing. This can be especially helpful for skills, since they can't be farmed, or items that you otherwise don't have and aren't in the general loot pool, like raid exotics or event items on a limited rotation. Printer filaments offer the best redemption versus donation ratio, so you want to focus that material if you are going to do this. But also, if you do plan to do this, wait until the weekend of Friday, March 27th. At that time, an expertise surge event will begin, which doubles any source of materials for that system, meaning you will get double the value for 1 point redemption while that event is live. We will talk more about events and resources in the next section, but I still just wanted to highlight that option here. And then, finally, as you rack up more and more Countdown runs, you will be earning requisition tokens, which is Countdown's currency. You can take those to this vendor at the base to score further rewards. This also ties into the resource and event stuff that we are going to be moving on to in just a moment, but if you maybe need a lot of exotic and named item proficiency levels, you could consider purchasing those caches and donating what you receive. It's also worth noting that beginning this Tuesday, March 24th, a Countdown Surge event will begin, where these tokens are dropping at a 2 times rate. So in case you are short on time and you're trying to maximize your Countdown farming for expertise, that event will be an ideal time to do so. So that is everything involving expertise and the grind to level 30 within that system, but that is only half the battle, because once you reach expertise 30, you still then need to upgrade any item that you wish to convert into prototype to the maximum expertise level. And that takes a lot of resources, including some of the game's rarer ones like field recon data, SHD calibration, and exotic components. Now, there is a decent chance that some of you already have these materials stockpiled, but if you're trying to get a full prototype loadout on day 1, then you're going to be burning through these things very quickly. So how can we prepare and hoard as many of these materials as possible? The good news is, as we mentioned in the last section, there are a series of back-to-back events that are coming up that, if utilized properly, can excel our material gains by quite a lot. So, starting the same day that I'm releasing this video, Friday, March 20th, and running through the weekend, we have an optimization event active. This will double the value of resources you earn for anything that is within the optimization system. And the two important ones to focus on in our case are field recon data and SHD calibration. In case you didn't know, you can visit the resources tab within your inventory to check at any time how many of these you have, how close you may be to the carrying capacity. But let's break down the best farm for each of these. For field recon data, depending on if you prefer PvE content or you want to risk dabbling in some PvP, two of the most effective ways to rack these up is going to be by completing control points or dark zone landmarks. Completion of either will grant you a handful of field recon data depending on the difficulty, and due to the quick turnover of running these pieces of content, you can farm a lot of these in a short amount of time. In PvE, you do have the luxury of enabling directives, if you can handle them, to increase your shade level gains further, where you could then use the scavenging points earned to redeem even more resources. And yes, field recon and SHD calibration will give you 2 times the listed values during this event. And additionally, in the open world, you can also build up to retaliations, which can offer exotic caches upon heroic completion so that you can start gaining exotic components at the same time. But regardless of which route you go, control points or landmarks, be sure to open up the chests that you find along the way. The once a day control point chests offer you a 10% chance at getting an exotic component on heroic difficulty, whereas dark zone chests, which you can farm on loop if you choose to, have a 25% chance to give you a component, so even more bonus on top of the farm you're already doing. As for SHD calibration, one of the best and easiest ways to go about this is actually countdown, both from the regular crates that you will find in every objective area, as well as the final orange crate that unlocks by completing the main objective. You will earn a few SHD calibration, and again, those drops are doubled during this event, and if you need it, you can knock out 2 things at once by both farming these and then getting expertise levels using the method that we covered in the last section. That then takes us to Tuesday, March 24th, where we transition over to a Countdown Surge event. This one is pretty straightforward. You earn double token drops as you play through Countdown. Like we mentioned in the previous section, this would be the most ideal time to farm Countdown if you're needing expertise levels, but even if you don't, this will still be worthwhile as you can take these tokens and direct them towards whichever resource you may need at the Countdown vendor. The 2 most recommended caches to buy are going to either be optimization caches, as these give you some amount of field recon data and SHD calibration from each, or exotic caches from which you can deconstruct the item that you get for an exotic component. And then finally, a week from when I'm releasing this video, on Friday, March 27th, we get an expertise surge event. This is the most lucrative of the 3, in my view, as not only does it still include the field recon and SHD calibration materials that we talked about for the optimization event, but it also doubles your exotic component drops. This is considered pretty much to be the rarest and most desirable material in the Division 2's endgame, right? You will need dozens of these to get a single item up to expertise level 30. How you go about getting your exotics and components during this event is largely up to you and will depend on what kind of player you are. If you happen to enjoy main missions and PvE content overall, you could focus on doing daily and weekly projects. If you're more PvP inclined, you could farm conflict for the high exotic drop rate from those caches. You could go and do more countdown for the potential loot drops, but then also buy the exotic caches and deconstruct them as you go. The choice is up to you, but the bottom line is that the weekend of the 27th is going to be the most prime time to farm the Division 2's rarest resource ahead of the release of prototype gear. And it will 100% be the window of time that I will put the most effort into to stockpile for what's to come. Alright, and that then takes us to the final tip of the guide, and this applies to all other sections that we've covered so far. I've got just 2 words for you: priority objectives. You may be sick of hearing about them. I'm certainly one of their loudest fans and endorsers. But whether you are grinding expertise levels in Countdown, whether you're farming field recon data in the DZ during the event, whether you're wanting to maximize exotic component gain, there are priority objectives that align with every kind of content within the game. And by not utilizing them, you're really just missing out on free rewards. Especially for exotics, if you're willing to jump around and play whichever kind of content follows the exotic rewarding objectives, you can score a lot of exotics and in turn exotic components quite quickly. So do not ignore priority objectives, remember to keep flipping through them as you play, and it will only help accelerate your progress, whatever step of the grind you may be at. Well, there you have it, folks. That is my ultimate preparation guide for upgrading to the new prototype rarity that we have coming to the Division 2 in Year 8 Season 1. I really hope this helped out. I know that upon the announcement of prototype, a lot of people suddenly felt a lot of fear of feeling behind or not prepared. Again, it's not a race. Not only will prototype be here forever, but it's also not going to be needed for the vast majority of content in the game. But I know y'all are going to chase it nonetheless, so hopefully this helps a few more of you feel ready to. At this point, I want to hear any and all feedback or thoughts that you have about this video. What questions do you still have remaining about the best way to spend your time before the new season launches? Are there any additional tips do you think people ought to know that I did not cover in the video? Please feel free to share those. And whatever thoughts in general you may be thinking after watching this, I'd be happy to read through them. That is going to do it for me on this one, though. Best of luck, everybody, in the farms to come. Hope to see you back here very soon, but until then, RogueGold. Ow. Oh! We just got a Ravenous! Haha! I might not be friendly. Let's go.
Coming to the Division 2.
Let's go!
And